The What to Read Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Maine interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next favorite read, then the show. Hi, Shari. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hi, thank you.
So happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I live in Toronto. I'm a Canadian. I live on a farm. I've been writing for about 20 years. I started writing thrillers about 15 years ago. No, not 15 years ago, 7 years ago. 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. Gosh, feels like 15. No, just kidding. And yeah, I've been really, really thrilled with the reception of this new book. Everyone here is lying.
This is very exciting. But you know what? 15 years, 7 years. I feel like 2010 was 2 years ago. So, like,
I know.
It's like 13 years ago. It's like, wait, 2012 was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years
ago.
Like,
I've lost all sense of time. It's just been weird.
Yeah, we had a pandemic.
Yes, we did. We did.
So what kind of farm do you live in? Like, is it a working farm? Do you have animals? Do you have vegetables? Or just like basically?
No, it's just an old farmhouse with some land around it. Yeah. And we lease the land out to a farmer who cuts hay off it, but we don't have any animals because we travel quite a bit.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really cool thing. You have the lease, the stuff, you get some passive income of like the hay. Like someone else can actually give hay for the animals,
Yeah. So well, you don't want the land to sort of go to waste. I mean, it's good to, yeah.
Exciting. So what made you decide to start writing thrillers? Was it, a fascination with true crime, or just like something you were reading, or like, growing up, be like, maybe this is like an area that's a little more darker, and more twisty. This will be a fun thing to start writing.
Yeah, I had been writing for years before. That's why I got mixed up in the timing. So I've been doing thrillers for 7 or 8 years, but I was writing for quite a number of years before that. Yeah. And I was writing comedies. So I had written some comedic novels, and that's really where I learned to write. But I'd always loved thrillers. That's mysteries and thrillers is what I grew up on. It's what I watch on TV. It's what I read. But I thought I couldn't write one because the plots are so important and they're so intricate, and I'm not a plotter. And back when I was writing these comedies, I didn't know any crime writers, and I didn't know that it was possible to write a thriller with an intricate plot without plotting it out beforehand. So I just assumed that you had to plot a thriller out beforehand because the plot was so key, and I couldn't do that. I didn't know how to plan. It's not the way I write. So when I wrote my comedies, I just sat down and I just went, and I didn't plan anything, and I didn't think you could do that for a thriller. And I always wanted to write a thriller, and it wasn't until my former agent said, "Oh, if only you could write a thriller," or "I wish you could write a thriller," and I said, "I wish I could too." And then I went home and I thought, you know what? I'm going to write one in secret. I'm just not going to tell anybody, because I truly thought I wouldn't be able to pull it off. I thought I would get halfway through and have a big mess of a plot and just have no idea of how to resolve it. But that didn't happen. It was The Couple Next Door, and I wrote it, and the whole thing just came together. So then I sat back and I thought, wow, you really can write a thriller without planning it out beforehand. And now I know I speak to lots of crime writers, and many of them don't plan. So now I know that you can do it that way. But at the time I didn't. So it was a big surprise.
Oh my gosh. So do you write it out, like just uncover as it comes, and maybe during the couple later on drafts, you start to tighten things around, like it's just, you start uncovering, and then like another draft, like, oh, there's another clue, it just,
Yeah. That's kind of it. So when I write it, I start with an idea, and then I write it out, and it just kind of builds, and I find all these characters, and twists just kind of happen, and reveals kind of happen. And then by the end of it all, I've got a solid first draft where I know who all the characters are. I know what the story is. I know how it ends, because when I'm writing it, I don't know how it ends. Yeah. And then after that big baggy first draft is done, then I go back and that's when the craft comes in, and I go back and I tighten, and I add, and I rearrange and make sure everything's landing the way it should. And so it's sort of two things. Like I do half my time on first draft, half my time on editing.
Yeah, I think it's like a magic. I think for cancers, it's just like, yeah, it uncovers as it comes, but there's also the magic of editing too, that
Yeah,
helps
yeah,
craft the story to either move forward or move backwards, or, give it extra twist or extra thing. You're like, oh, I got
hmm
this brilliant idea,
hmm
let's move it here, you know.
yeah,
So so let's
so
talk about
true.
so let's talk about everyone here is lying. What is the elevator pitch? And just give us a little teaser, because a lot of times we read these books like without any like, any idea of going blind.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about a 9-year-old girl goes missing from her house. And the what happens right before that is she's home from school unexpectedly because she's been misbehaving in school. She's a very difficult girl, so she's been sent home, and she's not supposed to be home alone. And then her father comes home unexpectedly at the same time, expecting the house to be empty, and finds her there. And he's home because he's just been dumped by his lover. He's been having an affair. So he comes home and he's not in a good mood. And he finds his daughter there, and they get into an argument, and he hits her really hard. And that's sort of the beginning. They have this argument. He hits her. He begs her forgiveness. He asks her not to tell the mother. And she goes, well, maybe I will tell the mother. And he leaves. And then a few hours later, the girl can't be found. So the question on everyone's mind is, did the dad do something with the daughter?
Yeah.
And then as the police come in and investigate, all the secrets of everybody on the street, all the lies they've told come under scrutiny, because of course when there's a crime in the community, everybody gets looked at.
Yeah.
And you think you're fine, you've got your private life all under control, but if the police come in and start looking at everybody, it gets really unsettling for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pressure they're under. And so that's hence the title, Everyone Here is Lying. Everyone's got something to hide.
Yeah.
And everyone's really unsettled by this investigation. And some people know more than they're telling, and some people are telling things that aren't true. And there's a lot of red herrings, and you just want to know what the truth is. You want to know what happened to her, and you want to know who's behind it. And yeah, I think it's quite a page turner.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like a page turner for sure. It sounds like addictive, like kind of like just keep them engaging with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Let's talk about your reading life. What kind of books do you tend to read?
I tend to read in my genre a lot. So I was just talking about with someone earlier what I'm reading. So I'm reading right now, I'm reading the new one by Abigail Dean. I don't know if you know her. She wrote Girl A.
Yeah.
Such a good book. I love that book. I loved Strange Sally Diamond, which is just out now. Which, have you read Strange Sally Diamond?
Yeah.
It's a great book. I love that book. I've got, what else am I reading? I've got the new Ava Glass spy novel that I want to read.
Yeah.
I've got the new Richard Osman. I've got the new S.A. Cosby. So I read a lot in the crime genre.
Yeah.
And I also like to read outside the genre too. I like to read nonfiction just to give my head a break or to learn new things. So I kind of read a lot of everything. I have a thing for shipwreck stories. I don't know why, but I've always read lots of shipwreck stories.
Oh my gosh, shipwreck stories they're fascinating.
They are. I'm a bit of one of these. I'm very timid physically in terms of being an explorer. I'm one of these armchair explorers. So I love to read about people who go off on ships in the 1800s and they get shipwrecked and it's cannibals and everything. Or, that novel Into Thin Air about the people that went up Everest and everybody died. I love those. I would never climb Everest myself or even take a boat across the ocean, but I love to read about other people doing it.
Yeah.
And because everything goes horribly wrong, which is, what I love. I love when everything goes horribly wrong.
It really is. And I will tell you, like, there's different places that I respect. The ocean is one of those places I respect.
Yes.
I'm like, there's no need to explore it,
I feel the same.
We're fine.
Nature is scary. Leave her alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, saying goes with going to Mount Everest. It sounds good on paper, but like maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not a good idea.
Maybe we can just see pictures, from afar,
I'm with you.
So, Shari, tell us where you can find you online.
So my website is just www.sharilapena.com. So you can look on there if you want to see my tour schedules where I'm going to be. But my handles are, I'm on Twitter, which is just Shari Lapena, and I'm on Instagram the most, which is Shari Lapena. I don't go on Facebook anymore because I can't figure out how to work it anymore.
It is okay.
And I tell this to my people, and they go, we can't figure it out either. What is going on with Facebook? It changes every week. I can't get onto my site anymore.
It does.
So
yeah, Facebook has been like it's an olden time. Like it's too many changes, too many things. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I'm a more of an Instagram kind of girly, and so
I like Instagram best. I think that's where a lot of the fans are, and it's just an easy one to use. So that's where you can find me. And Twitter too is easy to use. I'm on Twitter.
So awesome. Thank you, Shari, for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other book recommendations, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com. Thank you so much for listening and happy reading.